Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be reading the 4 most hyped books on my Kindle Unlimited TBR that I have been avoiding, fantasy romance in particular. I have been avoiding these books for one reason or the other, but all of them are loved and beloved by the romantasy community. I am someone that has been reading fantasy romance forever now. It is the genre that I really cut my teeth on when I was first starting to read, but I've been avoiding it recently because, I don't know, I've been feeling a lot of the books that I was picking up or getting recommended or what have you was really repetitive. I was just seeing a lot of the same tropes and the same characters, a lot of the same dialogue, and yeah, so I took a little bit of a break, but I've been trying to slowly work my way back into the genre and find some books that I absolutely adored. So we're going to check out some really popular books, see how I jive with them. I love being in the know. I love loving what other people love. I think without further ado, we can get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I would love to talk down below all of your thoughts. So I am only 14% of the way through The Blood of Hercules, and there has already been so much going on. I went into this book kind of with low expectations. I know that this is a pretty popular novel. It was originally indie published, and it has since been picked up by a publisher, I'm pretty sure, because of its popularity. This is a why choose Greek mythology based story. And we open the novel with Alexis at the age of 11 or 12. And she is living in a trailer with her foster family, and they are incredibly abusive. The first scene of the novel is Alexis hiding away in the woods when she gets visited by a talking snake by the name of Nyx. Nyx says, "I am typically not someone that can be seen by humans, so there must be something going on with you." During this conversation, we're introduced to the idea that we're in an apocalyptic future. Earth and humans were attacked by titans. And these titans, one purpose is to wipe out all of humanity. There are Spartans who are descendants of Greek gods like Aphrodite, Zeus, etc., who are charged with taking care of the Titans and keeping humanity safe. There are very few Spartans, and the government is kind of fucked. So in general, life is really shitty for most humans. Every person is forced to take a merit test, a Spartan merit test that tests your intelligence and whether you're going to be conscripted into the army. It's a huge honor, and it's this crazy intense test. And the heroine is trying to get out of poverty with her brother and Nyx. She is trying to get into the Spartans, hoping to make a better life for her and her brother, and she ends up popping positive for having Spartan or god-like blood. So rather than just getting into the army, she ends up being a Spartan, and she is enrolled in this tournament, and they're gonna fight to the death to become a Spartan. And some of the people involved in this tournament are heirs who are from Spartan families or from god families, and they're set up for success. And then there's obviously her. It's not the most accessible, understandable world building just right off the bat. It's kind of you get a couple of sentences into the dialogue or into the story, and then suddenly you're just being vomited and inundated with information. And that's kind of what happened here. And it's a little bit confusing because it's a lot of different moving parts. But I feel like I've sort of gotten a grasp on it. And the story itself isn't necessarily bad. I'm not struggling through it. I'm not struggling with the main character or the world. It is very dark, very grim, very brutal. There seems to be zero happiness, which can be a little bit exhausting to read about when the main character is just shit on the entire time, abused by her foster parents, witnessed their death, witnessed a Titan attack, now she's unhoused. That can be very exhausting to read, especially when there's no brightness at all. It is what it is. So she now has to compete in this tournament, and I'm sure that's going to be what this book is about. I didn't really look into what this was about. I just knew that it was like a why choose situation, and it was like Greek inspired. Interesting that it's post-apocalyptic. It's like 2090 or something, which is not that far off, to be honest, which is crazy. Interesting that it's Greek inspired but set in the future. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, I'm not hating it. The reviews for this are incredibly mixed. A lot of my friends on Goodreads have given this like 1 or 2 star. Like when you go on Goodreads, the reviews are very, very, very split. So I kind of wanted to start with this one because I know that it's long, and I know that with some of the others that I plan to read for this video, I have a general idea of how I might like them. Some of them I've already tried and enjoyed and just never got back to, so I feel more confident on some of those other ones. Whereas with this one, I genuinely have no idea how I'm going to feel. So I'm probably going to update you at the like 50% mark, or if I have some other thoughts that come up. But it's not a bad book. It's not a great book. I'm kind of just in the middle. I do feel like at this 14% mark, we've gotten a lot. And I was hoping that we would be into the story by now. Like, we spent a lot of time with her as a child, like the setup for her brother becoming part of the family and the death of her parents and all of that kind of stuff. Like, we got a lot of setup for that, and we are just now getting into the story. It is a long one, so 14%, but 14%, almost 20%, feels like a lot. We'll probably talk later whenever I'm further into it and have some thoughts, but fingers crossed that I enjoy it. I would really like to enjoy it. I just finished the second book in the Everflame series, and it was fucking phenomenal, like 5-star, and I haven't had a 5-star romantasy in forever, so I would like to keep that energy going in this video. So, side note, pick up the Everflame series. If you read the first one and you just thought it was okay, like, the series gets exponentially better. Also, this is a complete side note, but I have been reading so many webtoons recently. I've been reading predominantly webtoons, and I've been so obsessed with them that reading a book feels weird. Like, not having the art feels weird. Like, it's just a weird reading experience, but I've been loving webtoons. I got 50-ish%, I think like 45% of the way through The Blood of Hercules, and I'm having a miserable time with it. Usually when I am reading and I'm watching TV or something like that, I have to ask myself, like, is this TV show interesting enough to pull me away from the books that I'm reading? But recently I have been so obsessed with the Mashal anime that I've been having to ask myself, is this book interesting enough to pull me away from my TV show? And this book is not. I wish that I could say at this 50% mark we got a lot of progression of the plot, of the world building, of understanding what the fuck is going on, any character growth, any growth in any way, but we did not. Survives the trials, and she gets admitted to the training academy, whatever. She has mentors, and of course they're the big bad warriors that everybody's afraid of but are like super hot and everybody's obsessed with, whatever. Patroclus and Achilles. So they are her mentors, and she gets 2 weeks at the academy, 2 weeks to train with them, all that kind of stuff. And in return, they get to become generals. They're brutal. They're mean. They basically call her worthless. They imply that because they haven't had a female Spartan or whatever in centuries that she's useless. And then she goes to the academy and she basically gets told the same thing. The academy is brutal, and it's just, quite frankly, really boring to read. I think if the entire story wasn't about her getting the shit kicked out of her the entire time by every single character and getting spat on by every single character, I think this part would be a little bit more impactful. But the mixture of the writing, which quite frankly is just overdone and ridiculous, and the continued brutality and suckage of the plot and the characters just like combines it into this stream of boring story. There really isn't a lot in the way of relationship building, romantic or otherwise, in this. There's not a ton of character growth going on. She's literally sitting in a classroom getting abused, or she's sleeping in the bed at their house. So I just found this to be like a book that exists and got published for some reason, but not that good. So rather than torture myself, I'm just gonna DNF it and move on to the next one, and I think that's enough on that. I wish this was a fun one. I wish that I had enjoyed it, but I really didn't. After way too many episodes of Mashal and a quick little nap, I have gotten 15% of the way through A Court This Cruel and Lovely, and I wish that I could say the information that I'm coming to you with is from my memory of reading this and getting 50% of the way through. That would not be true. I don't remember a dang thing about the first time that I read this. I think I've tried to read this twice before, got 25% of the way through and then 50% of the way through. So third time's a charm, I suppose. I am liking this a little bit more than I remember the first couple of times. So we open the novel in the main character's small village outside of a big city. Humans are expected to give over their powers when they're a couple of days old, and those powers are then returned to them when they turn 25. However, there are people called corrupt, never get rid of their powers, and the gods deny their gift of their powers when they're babies. And so when ceremony is done when they're 25 to give them their powers back, they have all of the full powers or whatever. And ostensibly this was done to help the humans fight back against the Fae. In the beginning of the book, the main character and her friends and family witness family getting slaughtered because one of their daughters still had their powers. The main character, knowing that she has her powers, still flees to their house where her mom is having a vision. The next day she goes into the bakery where she works and sees a woman being attacked. She uses her powers to stop the guy. We find out that she has something to do with time, and when the event ends, the girl goes to the guards and notifies them that she still has her powers. So her and her mom go on the run. They're intercepted by guards. Her mom throws her off of a cliff, not before telling her that she needs to meet a prince. And she gets saved from the water by a group of mercenaries who leave her there to die. They keep her from drowning, but they leave her on the ground soaking wet with a cloak and basically leave her there to die. And their main leader's name was Lauren, and we also get his point of view. We don't know too much about them and too much more about the world aside from the Fae situation. And, we can kind of guess that Lauren is the prince, but in his point of view, he is hunting for an item to free his own magic. They then run into each other again when on the road, Prisha. I'm gonna call her Prisha. Prisha sneaks into their camp while they're sleeping to try to take their horses and some food and stuff. She again uses her magic. It doesn't work on Loren. He isn't frozen like she intended, and so he makes a deal with her that she can join their band of mercenaries on their quest, and they will keep her safe and give her food and all that kind of stuff. And she'll travel with them to the city. She'll use her powers to get into the city, to get them all into the city, and then they'll go their separate ways, having escaped. And that's kind of where I left off. She came up with this deal, and now they're traveling on the road together. I remember that being a large part of the 50% that I read, which is probably why I don't remember a ton, because I'm not a huge travel person, not a big fan of reading travel books. So, yeah. But I'm not hating it. I'm not despising it. That surely could change. Like at the 50% mark, I could be like, yeah, the travel is just it's so boring, but I'm probably going to read more of this. That's actually why I stopped to do this update, is because I wanted to read more. So I guess that's a good sign. But I'm watching Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on in the background. I took my little nap, and now I'm ready to read some books. So I think I'm gonna get something sweet, maybe make myself some coffee, and we're gonna get back into it.
Her excited smile was reflected in Bella's eyes.
I have so many books to be reading right now, and the problem is that I have been marathoning Midnight Sun, specifically the audiobook with Jake Abel. Something about listening to Edward's obsession in that man's voice is just scratching the brain, That being said, I have read several of the books for this video, so I ended up getting 50% of the way through This Cruel and Lovely, mostly via the audiobook. Thank you so much. It's fine. Basically, all that's happened plot-wise is that she has gone from working with these mercenaries to get them into the city to now working with rebels to overthrow the government, and she's like in the king's castle trying to like get information for the rebels. And she's working with her brother, and one of her tasks while in the castle is to get a prisoner out, which works out because she's trying to get one of her friends back from her village out of the prison as well. She was found to be someone that had their full powers. Her efforts to get them out of the prison are where I left off. It's fine. It's fine. I wish that I had like more concrete things to say, more like exciting things to say, but it reads very similar to other romantasies. It's not super compelling. The characters are not that interesting. The world is very same. The idea that like the government's lying to you, the main character has these powers, that kind of situation. You know, like the hero needs her for something, she's the key to everything sort of thing. It's very same. And so I'm not like in love with it, and it's not making me not want to read Midnight Sun or watch Maxwell. So those are my two like biggest conflicts right now. And I did get 15% of the way through Metal Slinger. Now this is one that I have read before. I don't know how far I got into it last time. This is slightly different, slightly more exciting things going on, slightly different world building with this one. As far as I know, this is largely a like pirate / on the sea story. The main character is an orphan and was taken in by their military and like put into a military academy, but she's ostracized, and the country itself is ostracized by the main country of power. They essentially live at sea, and their buildings and things are built in the trees in the sea. So like, and they have built pathways and buildings and stuff in the trees. At the beginning of the novel, they are taking a yearly expedition to the country that they're aligned with that has kind of ostracized them to the sea. It's called Kenta, and their land is called this. I'll put it on the screen. But Kenta is the most powerful country. Every year they send sailors out to participate in this big festival that celebrates Kenta's gods and all that kind of stuff. That treaty ends up getting broken in the beginning of the novel from our main characters, the heroine, her fiance, and 2 of their friends. And it results in this big fight. She runs into a guy who is a like commander in Kenta's army, and she steals one of his daggers, and she gets into an altercation with him that reveals maybe some magic or something weird going on with Kenta, but they make a grand escape. They blow up the port in their attempt to escape, and it breaks the treaty. They get back to their island, and they're speaking to their government, and the government basically says, we have to hand you guys over the people that they're suspecting are treasonous. We have to hand you guys over to Kenta for them to deal with you. Because of the heroine's engagement to Kai, her boyfriend, now her fiance, they have basically said like the future leader's wife is not going to be handed over to Kenta, but they're going to give you a chance. And so their friend, the woman who they suspect is actually a rebel, and the main character are being given a chance to provide more information, make it through the army, be like beneficial to Kenta and the islands in some way. We go back to daily life for the main character. Just generally, we kind of see her day to day in the military training and things like that with her fiance, and kind of get an idea about the structure of the islands and how they work. But a guy shows up who is the guy that she got into a fight with and who she stole the dagger from in the beginning of the novel. And I guess he starts like a fight or something with Kai as soon as he gets onto the island, because he's like making eyes at the main character, and so they imprison him, and that's kind of where the like 14% of the way that I've gotten through leaves off. Like I said, this one is much more interesting than A Court That's Cruel and Lovely. There's a lot more like new stuff going on, you know. There's a lot more like core politics that are interesting. This treaty is interesting. The way that this world functions is much more interesting than just the typical A Court That's Cruel and Lovely feeling, you know. So I'm by no means hating either of them. Like A Court That's Cruel and Lovely is fine. It's just not like as interesting as the other things that I'm currently reading. But Metal Slinger, I have a feeling I'm really going to enjoy. All of the previous times that I've tried to read it, I think I've also tried to read this twice. I didn't stop reading it because of the book itself. It was more of like a me thing. So I do have a feeling that I'm going to enjoy it as much as other people seem to. I would like a successful book out of this one. I would like to read a fantasy romance that's actually good aside from Everflame, because I feel like Everflame is the only fantasy romance I've read recently aside from The Night and the Moth that I have like really loved. So that won't reread. I need to get back to work, and I work, and I'm probably going to continue to listen to the audiobook of Midnight Sun. The thing about Midnight Sun is not only is the narrator's voice just like everything, Jake Abel, his voice is everything, but it gives a lot more context into like Edward's true obsession, which is like what we all wanted, right? So I don't love the novel for the novel itself, but more of like, I don't know, the obsession of it all is fun. So I'm probably going to do my work and listen to that audiobook, and then we'll pick up Metal Slinger. I would like to finish A Court That's Cruel and Lovely, but we'll pick those up later on. Okay, let's talk about some fantasy romance, because I finished a book, got 50% of the way through another book. I finished A Court That's Cruel and Lovely, and I'm gonna be completely honest, this is probably one of those books that I'm gonna forget about in like a month's time, and when I try to recall things that went on, I'm not gonna remember, because this was the most standard fantasy romance I've ever read, and I don't quite get why it's so popular. Like, I get it for people that are new to the genre, certainly, but some people that I know have read fantasy romance for years have been recommending this, and listen, like, books hit different for everybody, and I get that, but yeah, I don't know, this one was like, there was nothing here to grasp onto. The plot was so boring, their romance was so poorly done, I don't know. I was not a big fan of this one, and I gave it 3 stars, and so like I was like, well, maybe I'll just continue on depending on, sometimes people are like, oh, you know, it gets better as the series goes on. For example, the Everflame series got better as the books went on, and then I went to reviews, and people did not like the second one. Like, people that were primed to like the second one because they liked the first one did not like the second one. So I'm gonna avoid the rest of the series at all costs. And then I got 50% of the way through Metal Slinger. I'm obsessed with this one. It's so freaking good. The majority of the first half were at sea, but there's just something about this story that is so compelling. It's so fast-paced. I love the characters. There's so much angst in the romance where it hits a lot of the same beats as other fantasy romances do, but it just feels so fresh, and I'm obsessed with the story. So essentially, after they made landfall, they were stranded at sea after the whole thing that we talked about in the beginning, and then once they made it to land, it's really been a lot of caretaking and stuff on the part of the hero, because the heroine is really sick from getting her powers from being on land again, and now they're trying to navigate the different courts to go back to her homeland, and there's just so much tension in the romance. So I'm loving so much. We get so many like near misses that are just the tension is so good. The plot is typical in some ways, but new and inventive in a lot of ways, and it takes a lot of common tropes and like flips them on their head, and it's so fast-paced. I got through, like, I read majority of the story, I think 15 to 50%. I read at work yesterday, and I just didn't even feel it. Like, it just flew by. I'm loving it so much, and it's probably going to be, if not a 5-star, it's going to be like a really strong 4-star, and I'm upset that we don't have the second book. The second book doesn't come out until the middle of next year, which I'm so upset about. But I want everybody to go pick this up. I think it's so good. It's so different. Like, the magic system is pretty typical. It's kind of like a mage situation where you have elementals, then you have people that can deal with like psychics and brain stuff. The heroine doesn't know what her powers are. She has like a whole hidden identity situation going on. So it's kind of hits the beats of other stories that have come before it in that way. But the way that this kingdom functions and the way that the land is set up, and some ways that the plot could have gone to delay the story, to make it more dramatic, like romantically, and to follow in the footsteps of other stories in some ways. It just didn't, and it diverted from that, and I absolutely am adoring it. And we're getting into a part where we're interacting with the country in a new way that I'm very excited for. It's quite spooky. It involves like a spooky little forest situation with some giants and trolls and things like that. So I'm just excited to see how the story expands now that we're on land and we know kind of where we're going. But it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And it's so fast paced. I feel like if you're looking for a really rich and thought out and fleshed out with great characters story, you could find it here. And also, if you're looking for something very fast paced and very fun, you can also find it here, which I find just to be a delightful combination of the two. So I need to get into work. I'm going to be doing a lot of reading. I do want to kind of get a little bit of the way through On Wings of Blood and just kind of get a feel for it. I've gotten like 9 or 10% of the way through it, and I still don't really know much about what's going on. So I would like to get a little bit further into that today before I finish Metal Slinger, because I have a feeling Metal Slinger is going to put me into a slump with how good it is. So I suppose we can talk about On Wings of Blood, and then we'll talk about Metal Slinger. So I got about 10% of the way through On Wings of Blood, and I DNF'd it, which is unfortunate because that's the second book for this video that I have DNF'd. It's not well written, and I don't look for my books to be like the next literary great. I don't really care. The one requirement that I have writing wise is that your writing is not bad to the point of distraction, and that's what this book was trying way too hard to be a lot of very popular, recognizable books without actually focusing on trying to be readable. There was a lot of inconsistencies. The characters were carbon copies of other popular characters, and the world was near impossible to understand. But I did finish Metal Slinger. I listened to the audiobook, which is really good. I would recommend. I have already said in this video that I appreciate this novel for subverting a lot of very typical tropes, and for that reason, I think the ending was absolutely perfect. I'm so excited to continue with the series. I'm fascinated by how the plot lines are going to go. I'm a little bit heartbroken. I'm going to be completely honest with the ending, because I was loving where we were going, and I'm interested in the new direction. I'm not mad about it, but I don't know. We'll see. Some characters are heartbroken, and I'm also heartbroken with them. So that being said, great book. It maintained its great pace. The characters are endlessly fascinating. I love the tension-filled romance. The world is so interesting. There's so much politically going on behind the scenes. It's a 5-star, and I'm eagerly anticipating the next one in the beginning of next year. I think it's like May or April, sometime there. The second one is coming out, and I'm so excited for it. But that is it as far as what I'm reading for this video. I would love to talk down below if you have read any of these books that I read in the video, what your thoughts were, whether you loved or hated them. Don't forget to subscribe if you are interested in more videos like this from me. Check out my backlist. There's such a varied array of videos to find there. You could probably find anything that you would want. All of my social medias are linked down below should you be interested. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.